Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the Ted Show. This is actually my everything you could ever want to know about real estate, but we're afraid to ask with the one and only Walt Key, my dear friend. Walt Key with Epic Realty, Mr. Hawaiian Vibin. We're going to change the title every single time we do this show, and I'm going to land on one at some point. Welcome back, Walt. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Rested up from the 4th of July and ready to get to work.
Did you do anything exciting and fun?
No. Well, yes. Exciting and fun for me is sitting at home quiet. 21 years in the Navy. I used to blow stuff up for a living. I'm not overly impressed by fireworks. So we took the kiddos to a family friend, had a whole bunch of families converge on the pool. We had a good time. I sat in the sunroom and they were allowed outside for a few hours. And then we actually came home and it rained in between the pool party and the fireworks, which was great. And then the rest of the family went back for like a dinner thing, and I just hung out with the dogs. We had this beautiful view of Lake Brooklyn right from our backyard. So my whole back of my house is just windows that show me the lake. And awesome. We have some great fireworks shows just from the neighbors. They go all out every year. So I don't even have to go outside and hear as much noise to watch a really great fireworks show.
I love that. I love that. I think a lot got rained out. I know Lake Eola here, that's the big one, and they were having trouble like right beforehand. It was wild.
We got really lucky on the way the rain passed through earlier in the day where we're at, but it was all moving down towards Orlando.
We're just in tropical season. What are you going to do?
Yeah, right.
We should talk about insurance one day on this show. It is hurricane season. All right. So just tell them a little bit about you for the person who might be tuning in for the very first time.
I'm the only guy that just, no matter how hard I try, I cannot dress as awesome as Ted. Hawaiian shirts is as good as I get. Realtor, coach, author, team leader. I love talking real estate. I love helping people grow their real estate business. That's what we do every day. We're just trying to help agents succeed.
And you do a fantastic job. If you have not been in any of Walt's classes or workshops or anything that he does, you want to check him out. The Linktree link for Walt is scrolling below. And of course, you can just go to Linktree and type in Walt Key and you will find him. So last week we had a great session. I got lots of private messages. Is that what we're calling them now? DMs. Sure. Because you were so kind. Thank you for talking about that deal that we did together.
Of course.
I got lots and lots of comments on that. But also, people love that we're talking about the stuff that everybody doesn't want to go onto a mastermind group and get sold on leads. So we're talking about a lot of the stuff that goes on in there. So last week we promised we'd talk a little bit about the feds, right?
Yeah. So we can talk about the Fed, talk about jobs, talk about interest rates. They're all kind of.
Let's talk about all of it. Let's do it.
It's all interconnected. So really interesting. I'm going to say something that you don't have to take Walt Key's word for it. I'm nobody. I'm not a Fed chair. I'm not on the board of governors. I know how the Fed works. I've extensively researched it. We could have a whole hour-long diatribe on what is the Fed and how it was created. The Fed has said numerous times that they have a target for the inflation of 2%. And they are also watching the jobs market very closely because their goal, the Fed's kind of their job, if you will, is to manage inflation and the jobs market. Right? They want to make sure unemployment is right and inflation is right. Those are their two bailiwicks. And those are almost like devils on their shoulder when they say, well, what should we do with the interest rates? Well, what is inflation doing? Oh, okay, but what are jobs doing? Oh, okay. And so that's the two paradigms they focus on the most. And I was looking at some data recently. Again, 2% is the target. We're at about 2.3 right now. But when you start annualizing the shorter term inflation, we're well under 2 already.
Right.
And by annual, for those who aren't nerds like you and I are, Ted, when I say annualizing, what I mean is every month we track the data. If you were to take the last couple months' data and aggregate it and say, well, what would that be over the course of an entire year? We're actually under 2%.
Right.
So we're so close in my mind, to the Fed saying we're where we wanted to be. Let's do something. And then the other piece is the jobs side. And this particular month's jobs reports. A lot of people are like, I don't even understand this. This makes no sense to me. So there are a couple different jobs reports that come out. One of those is the ADP report. One of those is called BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, non-farm payroll. Two different data sets, two different pools of information. The ADP information comes out first, and then the BLS report comes out shortly thereafter. The ADP report, the analysts, the bean counters, the nerds, were expecting 100,000 new jobs created.
Yes.
And that report actually said that we lost 33,000 jobs. So we didn't create any, we went negative. And so
which they were not expecting.
We were not at all expecting. We were expecting to create 100,000 jobs. Instead, they say we lost 33,000. Okay. So from that alone, you would expect the Fed to go, oh, this is not how this works. We might need to start making some changes to our policy. 48 hours later, actually, it was 24 hours later because it came out Thursday morning. The BLS non-farm payroll report came out, and it exceeded the analysts' expectations. Analysts thought we'd make 110,000 jobs. The numbers were 147,000. So if you look at those apples to apples, they are completely the opposite of each other.
Yes.
One jobs report said we lost jobs and was way below analyst expectations. The other said we created jobs and it was above the analyst expectations. So what the hell is going on in the jobs reports?
What is happening?
Now, it's worth noting for the nerds out there, the ADP report focuses on private sector jobs, whereas the BLS non-farm payroll jobs are typically government, healthcare, more kind of big corporate business jobs, including in government employment, right? So the private sector jobs lost 33,000. The government healthcare sector jobs gained 147,000.
Wow.
Here's another very interesting aspect that is worth noting because we've seen the trend of this. When the ADP report comes out, those numbers are pretty much the numbers. They don't get changed much. If they said we lost 33,000 last month, we lost about 33,000 last month.
Right.
The BLS report has consistently started too high and has been revised down. As a matter of fact, you guys can go look this up if you want to jump on the Google machine. In 2024, 8 of the 12 months of jobs numbers for BLS reports were revised to the negative, meaning we said, 147,000. And then next month we're going, actually, now it's more like 110. Right? We've lowered those numbers almost every month that we put the report out, and then we revise it later and it's lower. So take that BLS number of 147 with a grain of salt.
Yes.
Because it might, I'm not saying it will, it might get revised downward next month.
Yeah.
All that to say, the unemployment is still on paper looking pretty solid. Those ADP numbers really start to, I think, move some tea leaves around where the Fed has to start acknowledging that's not probably the direction we want our private sector jobs going in. And so when you take the jobs numbers and you take the annualized, more recent CPI inflation numbers, and you start looking at those, without any bias, you go, we're kind of where we want to be.
Correct.
I think we should probably start talking about rate cuts.
You would hope, right? I think most of us are hopeful that is going to happen. And it's just so interesting, as you know, no politics, but everybody's in some sort of battle in our government against one faction or the other, including the Fed. And our president and the Fed chief aren't really the best of friends.
Yeah, for sure.
So it makes for a very interesting thought process. I've had a lot of people go, well, it's just because they're mad at each other. And I know that sounds simple. I don't think that's the full part of it, but it is the truth that they are not real
Well, they
friends.
definitely don't like each other. No doubt about that. But one of the things that the Fed share over the course of decades, not just this Fed share, they are a non-political, right? They are apolitical We're not interested in Democrat, Republican, Independent. We are here to focus on the economy, inflation, jobs. We control the levers of the economy to move things where they need to be to keep it in stasis. Essentially, they are by doctrine apolitical.
Correct.
Now, we're all human beings. Okay. So if I'm trying to be apolitical and the president is badgering me, calling me names, telling me I'm incompetent, telling me what I should do, my human nature is going to say, let me shove my thumb at you and I'll just wait it out. You don't get to tell me what to do. Watch this. And so I'm not saying that's happening, but I'm saying human nature, psychology says, if you badger me, I'll wait it out even longer just to spite you.
Yes. Well,
I hope that's not occurring, but it could be.
I feel like a lot of people think that's what's happening.
Sure.
A lot of people, you could follow TikTok or anywhere, LinkedIn even. People are talking about it. But we did see the rates. I was just on the phone with my team lead, Kevin. If you all shout out to Kevin, he just does such an amazing job with Mirakel. He said he saw 6.5 today.
So that's the magic number.
This is the number we've been talking about, Walt.
Yes. I think nationally, from an average perspective, we're not quite to 6.5, but we're still seeing rates gently tick down, even without any Fed decisions on the funds rate.
Correct.
The market has just kind of digested everything and said, okay, we can bring it down a little bit. Now, interesting enough, I think we talked about this briefly last week. When you look at the spread between what inflation was doing when we raised rates and how much we raised them, and you contrast that with how much the interest rate, the inflation has dropped and how little we've dropped interest rates, one would argue we should have been dropping rates. Just apples to apples correlation, right?
Correct.
I think we're really close. And here's the fun part, right? Even a 25 basis point cut will likely translate into the average, the national average rate being in the 6.5, maybe just under 6.5. Well, that's how close we are right now. I think a quarter basis point puts us under 6.5. And we've talked about this numerous times, that psychological breaking point where the buyers feel like it's a good time to buy again. The rates are digestible. 6.5 is kind of that sweet spot. So we're right on the cusp of some really fun dynamics happening in the market.
We absolutely are. You and I both coach, and I talk to my realtors, especially that I coach, and they're like, I'm thinking about, are you ready? I'm thinking about shifting my focus to buyers. And I said, well, did you have a great, obviously we both go into depth on that, but I'm sharing that, and you can give your 2 cents to that, but I'm sharing that because I feel like the market itself is beginning to feel that shift. People are inquiring again, and we're doing more pre-approvals, maybe not more sales, but more pre-approvals. And people are inquiring about, hey, I'd like to see how much house I can buy.
Yeah.
And so when that shift begins, because realtors have been struggling with their listings and getting those off the market and sold, that they want to say, ooh, maybe this is where I need to jump in. So what's your Walt coach hat realtor extraordinaire say about all that?
So there's good logic to that. I would say it's wise for any agent to be able to analyze the market, see the shifting trends, and make adjustments in their business that they feel is in their best interest, right? Financially, for the family, the whole shebang. With the influx of inventory we've had come on the market and the lag of buyers getting pre-qualified to buy, that market definitely shifted from, oh my gosh, I just have to breathe the word listing and it sells, to I gotta work. I gotta market. I gotta constantly update and refresh my strategy. I gotta sell my clients' houses.
Yeah.
I have to do the work. So there is that, absolutely. And I think as that shift to buyers comes back around, we are going to have a much higher inventory. We're still technically from a national perspective, millions of houses short. But we've gotten so used to working in the shortage, and the buyers aren't there just yet, theoretically. So I think working with the buyers makes perfect sense. If you can help your buyers understand the market, understand where their buying power is, get them qualified, and then you have a little bit more wiggle room to negotiate a better deal for your clients, absolutely do it. And if you've got a bunch of listings and they're not selling, go find buyers for your own listings too, right? Absolutely.
Oh my God. I mean, we talk about this a lot, and I never get tired of talking about it. If you haven't sat in on, booked yourself as part of Walt's workshops where he talks about all the things that you can do in the market, and he has successfully done them himself. So you're not getting the information from somebody who's got plugged it into Chat GPT and said, hey, this is what we should talk about. You have the experience, because I feel like realtors are in this analysis paralysis mode, and because things aren't working the way they did, they literally don't go to classes, do coaching, show up, go to team meetings. They're in a world where stuff's not working, but they don't want to make any changes to try to do something different to see if there's going to be a different result.
Yeah. I had an interesting, actually very similar. I had a conversation just today, right before at noon Eastern on Mondays. I do an accountability call for all of the agents in my 100K challenge. And so one of the agents said, hey, we're wrapping up the call. I have a quick question. She said, my husband passed away a little over a year ago, and I'm just not doing anything from my business. Like, I need to get back on track. What do you suggest? And I said, well, let's start with the obvious. Has your dynamics changed? Have you moved? Are you still in the same community? Did any of that crazy stuff change? I'm like, no, I'm still here. It's the same house, same community. And I said, okay, so I'm going to guess that you're just emotionally spent right now, right, and you don't feel like doing the work.
Right.
And she went, yeah, that's it. And I said, great. You know the solution to your problem already. We just identified it. You're building your business on feelings instead of executing the strategies you know how to execute.
Yes.
And you know you have to execute them consistently to go be successful. You're just choosing not to because you don't feel like it right now. And I understand that's valid. Your husband passed away. I can't even imagine. But you know that in order to get your bills paid and run your business, you know what to do. You were doing it when your husband was alive. You were closing deals.
Yep.
You have to go back to the basics, build out the vision of what you want to accomplish over the next 5 years, decide what kind of annual income you need to get there, break it into a monthly milestone that you can track and analyze, and start putting daily action on your calendar that you can execute consistently. You know this. And we just talked it out. But you're 100% right. That she's one great example of what you just said, where agents they feel the shift. They know it's not the same market,
yep, but
they either don't feel like doing something different. They know instinctively, I got to change some things up, but they're just not willing to do the work. Or there's also a group out there, right, that, I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago with somebody. There is such a high turnover rate in the real estate space. 80% quit inside the first 2 years, but every single day someone gets their license. So there's always a bunch of brand new agents. And if you've been an agent for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you have only operated in one kind of market, and you genuinely may not know how to shift the work you're doing to recapture the advantage in your space. And that's okay. But don't be lazy about reaching out and talking to people that have done it so that you can learn what you need to learn and you can start executing your business in this changing market. Super important.
And if again, this isn't a plug show for you, but I just have sat in on your challenge, on your challenges and the different things that you offer. Apparently, it's all hell's breaking loose here in Orlando. If you can hear this, and I just listen to you in those, and it's things that intrinsically people know,
Yep.
right? You have all the answers. People don't like to hear that, but you do have all the answers. Now, if you need help executing those or ideas on how to execute those, that's a little different.
Yep.
But you know what to do, which is what Walt said. You already know, and identifying that first and admitting that is such a big deal. Now we can figure out solutions on how you get out of that. I've got a coaching client who their biggest struggle is they want to do something different than what they're currently doing, meaning their job role, because they have a particular job role at the company that they work for, and they don't want to do it anymore. But they're fearful because they haven't been out in sales, let's say,
Yeah.
specifically for a long time. And I just said to her, well, you already know, like you know, you need to do, you're bored in what you're doing. So you need to figure out where the next step is and really kind of think it through. The worst thing you want to do is go, I'm done with this. Okay, my job's over. I don't have benefits or a salary anymore. And now I'm going to be doing this. And you go, shit, the market's not the same as when I was selling a whole bunch of houses back in the day.
Yeah, for sure. You made an interesting a point there, though. You said she's bored at the job, but she intrinsically knows what she needs to do, but she's scared.
Yes.
The best cure for fear is consistency.
Yes.
The best cure for I don't really know how to do this very well, consistently. I'm not confident in my ability to do the consistency.
Yep.
You don't ever, nobody does. Again, it's funny. You were like, you're sitting in on my call, but he wasn't on my call. I was talking about this. No one ever starts confident, competent, and 100% ready to go. Nobody. But as you put in the reps, as you show up daily and you are consistently executing a plan, you refine the plan. You get smarter on how to leverage the plan. You get better with the use of your time. Your conversations become more natural. The ROI and the conversion increase. You no longer are afraid of it because you're comfortable with it. You understand it now. You don't have to worry about, well, I'm not really sure how this works. You're just like, I'm just working now. The consistent execution of a plan trumps all of those things that hold us back from starting.
Yes.
You got to start. You just got
to start. You got to start. All right. So next week, you posted something interesting. So I want you to follow Walt on all of his pages. You always post some very interesting queries. You want to have adult conversations, which, believe it or not, most of us do. The people who scream loudest over here are the ones that we're all fearful of and don't want to deal with, and we don't like them. But most of us want to have an adult conversation and learn. And so follow Walt. I'd love for us to talk about things like this because what's happening nationally definitely impacts us as a whole. It impacts housing. It impacts jobs. It impacts job cuts. I mean, there's so many things that are going on nationally and in Florida. But we need to not be afraid to have an adult conversation about those. So maybe we focus on adult conversations next week. But in the meantime, follow Walt on Facebook is where he's prevalent. But you can go to his link tree and find him. Any parting words of wisdom before we head out, my friend?
No, it's Monday. Go run your business today. Monday should be the best day of your week because you get to start completely fresh. Everything that happened last week is done. Failure or success doesn't matter. Reset and start running your business again today.
I love Mondays. It's my day to get caught up. It's my day to get on track. I know a lot of people dread them, but we're all in the sales world. I don't know what one day is different than the other. In all honesty, they're all pretty much the same, but get rid of that mental block on Mondays because it's a great place to refresh. Walt Key, thank you so much. We'll see you guys next week. If you have questions in between, please reach out to me, reach out to Walt. We'd love to answer them and talk about them live on the show. But we will see you next week. All right, guys, have a good one. Thanks.